Thought that was the third definition of technology.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask a question at this point? What defines a facility? Could that also include things like sewer lift stations, lighting, parking lot lighting, things like that? Would those count towards the 100,000? And I would assume that the majority of the city's facilities are probably served by Duke Energy, maybe a handful by Rutherford. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very interested in that program. It would seem like the key, though, is securing renewable energy from Duke Energy in some type of arrangement or agreement. And I don't know if 7% of 100,000, let's say we barely passed that threshold, now we're talking about 7 to 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, which is not a lot. So I don't know that we'd have a lot of negotiation strength with Duke, but it'd be good to at least get a handle on the numbers for the city and all the city-owned facilities, and then think about, what programs could that qualify for with Duke Energy, and what's the cost to qualify and to participate as well. As being the first municipality in North Carolina is pretty good bragging rights. That would be fantastic press. Good for him. I like that.
Seth, how much work would it be to try to get that kind of aggregate total utility consumption, just so we get a sense of scale for what we'd be committing to?
I just want to mention, Seth, I've done studies like this before, so if you like, I could be leaned on for this. Basically, the way that our electric companies are set up right now, it's really easy to pull this information because they'll keep it for a year back, and we can see, what each one of the buildings were charged, just logging on to their site and kind of totaling their electrical consumption. So please, use me or use us to help with that. And then two things I wanted to bring up on that. One, jumping off what Robert brought up, there's two things here, and I think they're one and the same. One is, where do we get our power from? We either get it from traditional sources, the utility plants, or we get them from renewable resources, or renewable sources. But then there's the reduction, right? And so if we're using things like green lights or higher efficiency HVAC equipment, then we're actually bringing our consumption down, which is a good thing anyways. So, but it's harder to show, let's say we bring a reduction down, then it's harder to get that amount of percentage from, green power sources. And so it's a nice thing to look back over the year, how much we've been using, and then kind of have a negative amount from those higher efficiency pieces of equipment to bring down our energy usage, and then going towards green power sources. Mm. Nice. Good. Now I was going to say, nice, let's move everything to online account, reduction in paper. Boom.
Well, I was going to...
I know that.
Well, it would, even if we don't have the data at our fingertips, I can almost guarantee that if you get to the right person at Duke Energy, they could scan for all the accounts for the city of Belmont and give us 12 months history. For them, that would be a relatively easy report to generate, I would think. Oh, okay. Sure.
Good deal. And then if you were, looking into this based on what Robert was saying about energy reduction using, let's say, like LED lights in these facilities. Another thing I was thinking about, if we're moving over to electrification, that's in regards to our vehicle fleet, that would increase our electrical consumption, but those have other good benefits for us. So I was wondering how that would affect us as well. Mhm. That's all for me. Thanks.
how do you water those? Is it just done through natural rainfall? Ah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I guess one thought on that, the last one, I really like the water refill stations. I know that there were plans to redo the restroom building at Stoke Park. Is that something that maybe we could consider incorporating into that design, and maybe just pilot that location in that park and look at selling the paper water bottles at local events right there on Main Street? Yeah.
This is Tiffany. So I would like to say my understanding is from one of the last meetings I attended that that restroom project at Stowe Park, there's not a timeline set for that project. And so while I think it's a great idea at that location, I would also be interested in maybe exploring this if there's interest at the rec center and near the proposed Abbey Creek Greenway to possibly have a site to launch it at first. That would also put it right near the City Works building for everybody stopping by to visit to that facility, and it could be shared between visitors of both locations as well as 7 Lofton Park. So that's another just possible location for exploration that might happen first, just because I don't know that the funding or prioritization for that restroom project is at the top of the list in this round of the capital improvement plan.
Do we have sort of an estimated price, especially the water station? What that would cost? It doesn't seem like much. Like it's a stanchion with pipe and valve, an outlet, and a nice advertisement to help pay it off.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to ask too, Doug. I'm glad you brought it up, because could advertising revenues offset some of these costs on an ongoing basis?
If you guys are really interested in exploring this idea, the other thing, Seth, that I'm thinking about is that we may be able to incorporate this idea as part of our conversations with the Carolina Thread Trail to look at branding our future trails that are planned as part of the Carolina Thread Trail, so that maybe one of these is included at a sign with a map of those corridors, just as part of the trailheads or mile markers. And if that's the case, they may have some funding for signage and branding that could help with this as well, depending on how we, identify that display. So if that's something the group may be interested in, I'm happy to loop Seth in when we start talking about those signage and branding for our new greenways here in Belmont.
Yeah, Seth, it may be that we have to just defer any kind of decision on the green power program until we at least have the data across all the city's accounts and facilities to better understand, can we qualify, which we probably could. Is there some type of Duke program that would enable us to meet the minimum 7%? I think we'd have to do some further research on that as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea, Robert. And I think to jump off that, there's two things rolling around in my head. One is we have a lot of participation, for the environmental board in Belmont, and you could tell that by the people here. And you can also tell that people care about environment by how many people go outside in our town compared to just other towns I've been in and lived in. So I think this water station's a grand slam, especially with runners. There's runners everywhere in Belmont, and me being a runner myself, I always go to Stowe Park. I know that that's my spot that I could fill up and, get one or two gulps of water and keep it going. So I think that this is great. But where I'm going with this is I think we should split it up. I think that I think that there's enough of us to help with a water station, enough of us to help with the green power initiative, and I think that they're both super important. The living wall's beautiful. If anyone's interested in that, but I think I would go more towards the power side personally, because that's what I know and that's what I've been doing for a long time. But I like them both very much, and I think that we could do both. And I don't know what other initiatives we're working on right at this moment. My 1 cent.
Well, we could combine them and bring green power to the water stations.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really like the water refill stations. I think mostly from the perspective of if we could eliminate selling plastic bottles at events, then I definitely think there's some additional benefit beyond just, providing that as an amenity to the community. So.
Yeah.
And for the paper water bottles, is there a way that we can test one out? Can we get a sample paper bottle?
That'd be great.
Awesome, thank you. This is Grace. Sorry, I'm gonna have to go, but I definitely am interested in helping out with those bottle fillers and paper water bottles, if we could make that a possibility. But I'm gonna have to go for today. So.
Bye, Grace.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Grace.
Bye, Grace.
Okay.
Hey, this is Becky. I just wanted to chime in with my 2 cents. I think if I had to pick one, I would probably pick the green energy, just because I feel like that's like the biggest net benefit to our environment. But I do think that the water refill stations and paper water bottles is a really cool way to have something that's visible to all of our residents. I really like the idea of involving local artists to create those custom or limited edition designs. And I think it'd be a really neat way to get the community involved with this. So I really, really like this also, but if I had to pick, I would go for green energy. That said, I am not an energy expert like Jennifer, Doug, and others. So I would be more than happy to help with the paper water bottle and water station refill if we decide to go with that.
Seth, what do you see the timeline on these, and to start kick off once you kind of digest what we've said and whatnot?
Yeah, Seth, this is Rob again. These are all three great project opportunities. To me, the green energy one, I think, can carry more weight for the city overall. It also starts to take the city in a direction where we might think about a broader energy sustainability strategy around our energy and energy supply, thus possibly putting the city in a position to be able to negotiate more effectively with Duke Energy for our sources of energy, as well as possible considerations for making investments in the right locations for PV systems, solar PV and or battery systems to be able to store more green energy and use it off peak. There are ways that program can have a greater influence to the city among these three different options that you've put in front of us today. than happy to commit my time to support the Green Power program if we choose to go with it.
Perfect. This is Tiffany. So one of my thoughts, and Peyton, just let me know if it would work for you, but just to make sure that we get everybody on the project that might interest them most. If you have some extra time and want to help with either one of these projects or both, if you can just send us a quick email and let us know where your interest is, and that way we can get you looped in on the right team, and send out some more information. And Seth, from my perspective, it would be helpful if you have looked into any possible timing or had any discussions, if you could like put together a timeline, or if you need the team to talk about that, that would be helpful. And then we can get everybody plugged in and start moving forward with everything. The other thing I was going to say is I know one of the largest barriers to a lot of projects is always money. Nobody wants to talk about it. It just happens to be one of the largest barriers. And so I am also going to just go ahead and put out any requests. If you guys know of any grants, donors, sponsorships, or anything else, people that have passion about these types of activities or topics that you would be willing to share with us to look into further or connect us with, that would be really helpful. A lot of times, if there's somebody willing to help fund the projects, they do end up getting implemented a lot quicker, or if we can receive grant funding. So I can start looking as well at anybody that has those resources or availability to help try to hunt down some of those options would be greatly appreciated. That sounds good. Thank you guys. It's been a great discussion. And I'm glad to see a lot of interest on the ideas that Seth has. That's great.
Yeah, no, this was great. Yeah, thank you, Seth, for bringing all this to our attention. I think you can sense some of the excitement here. So, I think we'll definitely take that as a takeaway to think about, which teams will be want to be involved in going forward around the green power or the water refill. And yeah, so I guess with that said, I know we did want to save a little bit of time for brainstorming additional ideas based on the conversation with Adrian last week. And I feel like, I think, based on the excitement around these, I don't know how many more projects we'd want to take on now, but wanted to give everyone a chance just to kind of throw out anything that you saw as a good opportunity or takeaway based on what we learned last month.
I actually just have like a quick little snippet, I guess, to share before we start the goals and discussions.
Okay.
If that's all right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So I know, like, initially we talked about how this is going to be a goals and almost like a work plan discussion. So I noticed, and I think we've all kind of just noticed that the board is very driven and has great ideas and very committed. But I think also, like, one of the places where we kind of struggle is a work plan and like specific goals to work toward. So last meeting, There was actually someone asked if there was a goal for the environment or for the ESB, and I think the answer was no, but it turned out there actually is. So in the comp plan, there are goals. There is a goal that focuses on the environment. So just a little background: the comp plan is just like the long range vision for all the growth, development, redevelopment in Belmont for the next 30 years. There are 8 main goals that it focuses on, like land use, infrastructure, and there is a category for the environment. So I think too, we can use this as a reference maybe to kind of establish more goals that we want to work toward. And once we establish those, our projects can be like, okay, this is a project we want to work on. It's a short-term goal. It is backed by the comp plan. Here we go. And it just provides more support for from council, and even kind of can provide more funding too, as long as we're working towards the comp plan. And also in this, there are maps and paragraphs and tables and information on Belmont's natural environment. There's like a page about soil, land use, development, hydrology, topography. There's just a bunch of information on there. And I think that could be a good starting point too, to just kind of where we can focus in on our few goals that we have and kind of build off of those, and then have a plan to work toward those. So right now, the current goal, all it says is to protect the natural environment of Belmont as a critical public asset. So that's all it says, which is a little bit broad, but that's kind of the point, I guess, since it is just a broad 30-year goal pretty much. But it kind of breaks things down into a list of actions and projects that it sees as necessary for implementation, kind of to seek to achieve the main goal of protecting the natural environment of Belmont. And it kind of just focuses on the natural area. It says protect water resources and incorporate health in all policies when you're considering policies, projects, etc. So I think kind of one of the things maybe we can talk about in this goals discussion that we had planned is what does the board want to focus on, and how can we strengthen this in the LDC, in the comp plan, because it is a little weak. And I think if we kind of make it a little bit stronger and be like, yes, here it is in the comp plan, it just provides like more support and for our projects that we do want to do. So I was kind of just had that's what I just talked about. Just a few focus options, just very big picture items that I had that we could add to the table that is already in there. So we could kind of just do like a big main thing and then kind of work toward those goals. And that's just kind of the focus options that I've seen and heard in the past few months since I've been back in Belmont since June. Just kind of the things I've heard the board talk about. So I was hoping that maybe in this discussion, we can kind of figure out what is the board focused on, and then projects, like Seth said, that we could talk about and work toward that is supported by the comp plan.
Yeah, thanks, Peyton. I think that definitely helps frame up kind of just how we might want to think about where we want to focus. So I'd say the green power option, I think like Rob was suggesting, could definitely be part of a broader kind of strategic energy plan for the city. So I would say, I think, major categories we probably want to consider are some of the ones you listed, like looking at not just the city's energy usage, but also potentially like the broader community energy usage. But all of these, I think it probably makes sense to start small where we can control, and then consider how we expand from there. I'd say, between energy, water, waste, I think we've done a lot now with the tree ordinance. I don't think we've gotten really involved historically in any of the like broader land use and development, like zoning and policies there. So I think it's really just a matter of, where we feel like we have where we can have the biggest impact and where we have people interested in kind of taking on and leading some of those initiatives.
Right. And I think too, like if we could establish some sort of work plan for the board, we don't have to start all these projects at once. I think if we establish a plan, we can do one project, really focus on it, do it well, and hopefully have an ongoing project. So it's maybe we just check in on the implementation once a year, monitor it and its progress and everything. But we don't have the manpower to start 4 different projects all at once, and then keep them going and try to get the ball rolling on that. But if we maybe just, like you said, start small, focus on a project, get it done, and then grow and have longer term goals. And then it would all circle back to like supporting the comp plan. But we can have short and long term goals, which I think is a great, I think the green energy thing that Seth was talking about is a great idea, but is it something that we can do right this second? It's just kind of like a question that I had. Not saying that we can't, it's just like one of those things that we'll need to decide as a board. But also too, that just kind of in addition to all of that, giving an intern update. We've had some intern applications come in. We just haven't really done that much with them because we're kind of waiting. We have a timeline kind of for them, I guess you could say. We don't have unlimited funds to pay them. So we haven't done anything really with that because we don't know what to do with them. I think if we do decide to start on a project, then we could have a board member to come in on the interview process, pick an intern, and then once they're here, be like, okay, this is your project. You're helping out with this. But we just don't have like a specific project. But if we do decide to do the project that Seth talked about, and we could have that intern come in, focus on that project and help us out a lot about that. That's just something else to think about too when we're talking about these projects as well.
That's very good. Thank you so much for bringing that up. It's funny, you have an environmental board and you have all these interested, excited people. It kind of reminds me of a startup. You have all these good plans, but follow through with them. You need to set up some tasks, and our town and our environment's forever changing. Landscape's forever changing. So new things are coming on your plate, new and exciting things, so you want to talk about those. And so you kind of talk about a lot of things. I guess step one, what's on our plate now? I know we have tree ordinance, right? That's
do.
coming up.
Yes.
And then tree tag. So I never got back to because I'm a bad boy, but I'd like to participate on Wednesday.
Oh, we can. That's amazing. Thank you.
And then I think we have something for recycling. So I don't know, should we have like sort of a document or a folder for each one of these initiatives? And then anything new that we take on, just kind of measure our resources versus what we think the estimated effort would be. So then, I love talking about all this stuff.
Right.
I think you nail on the head with, getting these things done is just it's just something different and something that, I don't know, maybe isn't in a person's regular nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when we started the tree ordinance update, one of the things that was conducted was a survey of the Belmont citizens, just to get feedback on priorities to be able to help shape, some of the thinking that went into the updates to the ordinance. And I'm just wondering, would it make sense to do a survey on both sustainability and energy, and to just better understand the priorities of the citizens of Belmont. And would that be useful information to help inform us and guide us on, what kinds of projects would be high priority for us to consider?
That's all.
I think that would be helpful. And then if we did conduct that survey and got their responses, we could try to cater the work program and the goals that we're trying to establish toward what the citizens are most care about in Belmont and everything.
I think that'd be a really good way to educate them on what we're already doing as well, and just mention like a tree city and bee city designations and some of the work on the tree ordinance, and just to bring them up to speed on, here's some of the great things we're already doing. Now, where else would you like to see us focus?
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Idea.
Right. And I do think that's a good start. Just because I think I really do think all the ideas are great and I would love to implement them, but also I'm just trying to think realistically and just trying to work toward goals, because we don't as a board have like a good path, I guess you could say. We're just kind of all over the place. Which just like my type A nature is like, I need a plan. I like to see the roadmap. So if we could just maybe have just a discussion on that at some point about maybe what the people want to see, how we can, some ideas that they would like to see, and then how we can implement those and go about that. I think that could probably be a good way to move forward with this board.
Yeah, I'd say I think one thing we've struggled with to date is, I guess, knowing what all data we have access to help inform those goals. So I think those are some of the past conversations, is just trying to wrap our head around, like the last meeting was super helpful, just so that Adrian could kind of point out like some areas that we may want to target. But I think before we can actually set goals, we kind of have to know like, how are we performing today versus where should we be relative to, other similar sized cities, so that we can actually set kind of where we want to be headed, how long we think it's going to take us to get there, and then start laying out some prioritized initiatives, that align with those goals. So,
definitely.
Okay.
So I think, I think it might be helpful as we start to kind of think of this from both directions. Like, we can't set the goals until we understand, I guess, what some of these priority and kind of focus areas that we want to at least look at. And then we need to understand, where are we today? So I think some of the information Seth is pulling around, like the energy, that should definitely help inform, how we want to think about the green power project. Does that make sense? What should our broader kind of energy or carbon goal look like, and how does that program specifically play into that? So I think we may just want to think through more holistically, like the water refill stations. Great idea. What broader goal does that support? Is it community engagement? Is it green health? So yeah, completely agree, Peyton.
And I think that's too important when we kind of just revamp maybe the comp plan, just because it's like you just said, the water refill station is a great idea, but which goal is it address? What big picture goal is it helping? And I think we are kind of lacking those big picture goals, just for the environment in Belmont as a whole, honestly, just because the comp plan isn't very, I guess, meaty in that situation. It's a little bit weak.
How do we fix it?
Well, we can try to discuss just big picture areas. I was hoping maybe we can come up with a few, and I'll take them back and see maybe where we can maneuver them into this, whether it's adding additional actions or taking these ideas and kind of weaving them into the existing actions to see where they would fall. but it might just kind of be one of those things where we kind of create a list maybe now or next meeting, and then just kind of work on that now, and just kind of work on this within the next few months, and just kind of try to weave together a better plan.
And building off of that too, I would say if we wanted to propose updates or clarifications to our comprehensive land use plan, I believe City Council just did that when they updated the vision statement. So it's that, ours would not be the first update to this comprehensive land use plan now that it's a few years old. We would recommend it, and it would need to go to the planning board and then to City Council to be adopted in once we got those recommendations pulled together.
And just to note too, that is the point of comp plans. They are evaluated every 5 or so years just to try to be up with the times, because technology does change conditions in which we live in, trends, things like that. So they are meant to be fluid documents where they do change with time. And this just could be one of those situations where the original people maybe didn't have the environment as much of a priority as we do right now, and so maybe it's time for us to update the environment goals now. But that is part of comp plans as well, so they are meant to be amended.
Hey, Peyton, this may take several hours of internet research to conduct this, but I'm just wondering if it would be worth looking at municipalities throughout the Carolinas or the Southeast more broadly that are in similar size to Belmont, and to see what cities have made commitments. What do those commitments look like in terms of sustainability, the environment, energy, conservation, whatever they are, just to have a sense of what kind of goals other cities have set that are in a similar position as Belmont. That, I think, could be pretty informative.
Definitely. I think that's something to look at, to get some ideas and see how they're doing and things like that. I think I can try to definitely look into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not fair to compare ourselves with the city of Charlotte. I mean,
right.
They just simply have more resources, right? So,
right.
Their goals are going to naturally be different and probably more assertive than any that we could set at this time. But it still would make sense to at least see what other commitments are being made out there.
I agree, definitely.
So why don't we do this? And my daughter Vaughn joined us. She wants me to listen to the meeting. Why don't we have, everyone's up to it, every meeting have sort of a recap of the last meeting, just highlights, and then give a status update on what everyone's doing, a couple minutes, and then talk about homework and goals, towards the end of the meeting. So towards the end of this meeting, we'll say these couple people will work on identifying working with Seth to identify energy usage for facilities within Belmont, something like that. And then that'll help you, Peyton, because that'll paint a nice roadmap to what our goal is, and then what our homework is. So maybe our homework this time should be develop our mission statement, our top 3 things, for the environmental board, and then also start looking into defining what the energy usage is in Belmont. How does everyone feel about that? Is that too strict for everyone? I don't know.
I mean, I guess in my mind, I think defining the mission statement, that may be a jump ahead until we decide, do we want to conduct that community survey to get input on what those priorities would be to help guide those initiatives. So I think if everyone was a fan of doing that as a first step, along with some of the research on other similar cities, I think we would definitely need those pieces of input to kind of figure out where we focus next.
Yeah.
Yes, the mission statement would be gathering data.
Okay. I was thinking a more formal, like something that's going to get, put into all of the branding on the city website and everything. So, okay, we're on the same page now, Doug.
We'll be the greenest city in Gaston County. Yeah.
We might already be able to check that box. So.
But no, I agree, Jennifer. I think those are two important steps. I honestly don't know what was the response rate to the tree ordinance survey that went out back in, I forget when the timing of that was, April or so, I forget. But Shelley could give us, better information, how that was conducted, what kind of response did we get. It's, how do you actually send a survey out to all the citizens of Belmont? Is it through their water bill? Do they even look at stuff like that? I don't know.
That is something I would have to find out.
Yeah.
I was not here for that. But definitely something I can look into.
I'm not sure if it got sent out by the water bill, but I do know they tried to do a big social media push and it was put on our website, and she was working on various ways. So that is always one of the challenges, is that and I think for any municipality, Belmont is no different in this, is that everyone, especially nowadays, is so busy. So it's figuring out, how do we reach everybody? Because not everybody's on social media, but not everybody, responds to text. So trying to push things out in as broad of a mechanism as possible. So when we do broad initiatives like that, I always say it's best anybody that we can help advocate and get to spread the word and, really push that community input. It's word of mouth, I think, is the most successful, right? Because when we're passionate about something and we ask our friends to do it, they'll do it for us, but they might not do it if they see, the government posting something. So, I think it's just always going to be a continued effort of building and advocating and really boots on ground, just saying, hey, this is important. Now's the time. Like, don't wait on that. Don't tell me you'll do it in 2 weeks. Just go ahead and get it done. And really pushing to hear from the community so that we can make sure we're having goals that align with what the community itself wants. So I would just say you guys are great advocates. And so if we can continue to have you doing what you do best, advocating and pushing for green initiatives, I think that will really benefit the city as we move forward.
Definitely. I agree with that 100%.
Okay. So to Doug's point around giving out homework, and I don't want to put everything on city staff, but I just want to make sure we capture some of the action items. So Seth will do what he can to dig up more of the energy data so we can continue that conversation. Peyton, do you mind looking into what it takes for us to put out that type of community survey to gauge priorities
Definitely.
around energy and sustainability? And then don't know if you or any of the other city staff will also have time around the benchmarking research. I think those are going to be our critical pieces to figure out kind of where we focus next.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think we can do it. We might have to have some patience.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I guess so that we're sharing a little bit of that, I would say, homework for everyone else is just to kind of think through, are there any other maybe initiatives or project ideas beyond what Seth has already shared that we may want to start researching or figure out how that could play into where we focus.
I think we need electric vehicle charging locations throughout the city of Belmont.
Yeah.
That's a personal bias.
And that could be part of the green power initiative.
There you go.
Right? So,
and to Doug's point about, even increasing electric sales is not a bad thing if you're, using that to displace fossil-based energy consumption.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. All right. Well, I know we're getting close to 8:00 here, so any other comments or topics or anything anyone wants to add on before we adjourn?
I just have a few little tidbits and other business I'd like to add. Just a tree tag, we do need tree tag volunteers. I got ahead of myself, but we're trying to hang those up next week. We will have everything ready to go. So you'll just have to come, pick things up, hang the tags, and just bring it back. It shouldn't be that hard. And like I said in that email, really the locations don't have more than 6 trees in each one. So it's not too time consuming, but would appreciate the help. And if those times don't work for you too, just let us know. We can work with you. It doesn't really have to be a set time, or date, just as long as we get those hung up, hopefully within the next week or so, would be awesome. In addition to that, the tree ordinance update, they held the public hearing last night at City Council. So they currently tabled it. There's some legal discussion that they're having. And also